Hello everyone, this is Jotto and welcome to the Hearthstone Weekly Show. Now for this week we're going to be going over the rematch between Darkwonyx and ThatsAmirable. Now I've seen ThatsAmirable play on here before against Strifecrow on the Arhat. He was a very good player back then. Darkwonyx has been getting better and better and better, and I've covered a lot of his games as he's been getting to be a better player, and at the moment I would consider him being one of the two best players in the world along with Strifecrow. But at the moment, in the actual fight night, they played in the first set of this season. They play 2 sets per season, and in the first set, Darkwonyx beat him out in a fairly close game, and Admirable made some key, fairly close games, and Admirable made some key mistakes that actually lost in the series. So for this series, we're going to be going over 2 games. The first game in the series, and also the last game in the series, I do believe. Yep, last game in the series. Now, I'm not going over 3, because the first game is very long. This seems to happen a lot actually, so I might just bring it down to 2 in general, because every single time I want to do 3, there's just a really long game, and it would go for about an hour or so, and no one really wants to sit down and watch an hour video. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get started, shall we, with the first game. Now, opening hands, we have Druid Mirror. Opening hands, I'd say that Darkwonyx mulligans, they make sense. You probably want to keep the Earthring Force here. The swipe, debatably, but not really. There's better things you can have. For ThatsAmirable, I would probably send back the Defender and keep the rest, personally. So we'll see what he actually does here. But yeah, sending back the Defender makes the most sense. Yeah, alright, so mulligans look like it's going to be exactly the same. Although getting the Savage Roar is actually worse than having the Defender. And Darkwonyx got a fairly good hand overall. In terms of opening hands, I would give a slight edge to Admirable, because he is going second, so he can innervate out that Yeti on turn, or not innervate, coin out the Yeti on turn 3. I would definitely play the Sunfury Protector here. Force your opponent to do something reactive as opposed to proactive. And he's thinking he could Wild Growth here, but if he Wild Growths, then he doesn't Wrath this thing, so he is in fact going to Wild Growth. I do agree with going for the Wild Growth, although it does mean that the coin doesn't really have a use at the moment. I should imagine we're just going to see the Harvest Golem come down here. Although, there is an argument for the Earthen Ring Force here, in case of Druid of the Claw, for example. But even then, you have Wrath, so. Okay, we're going to see the Yeti down, and we are most likely going to see a Wrath come down to deal with this thing. Could even see a single damage Wrath, but that's really greedy. I think the 3 damage Wrath and run the Harvest Golem into it. Your board is swipeable, but then you took down a Harvest Golem, and it's essentially, I mean, it is 2 cards in versus 3 cards, but it's a Chillwind Yeti that's got coined out on effective turn 3. But yeah, it's not as easy as plays it looks. The other one is Innervate Sylvanas. That's the other play you could go for. I think that is the more greedy play, so to say. It would work though. Your board is very open to swipe at that point. Swipe would kill the Sylvanas. It would kill a 2/3 as well and leave a 2/2 on the board. I think we are going to see the Innervate Sylvanas. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. That's the other play. It doesn't play around swipe. Neither plays really play around swipe. This one plays around it less. So we'll see whether he gets punished for this. We're just going to see the Cycle Wrath. He doesn't want to take damage, and there's the swipe. It's unfortunate that he has it now. He could coin swipe, but no real point. Now, this is an interesting set of plays. We could see a 3 damage Wrath hero power. We could also see a cycled Wrath, Harvest Golem into the 2/3. And then hero power. I think that's the greedier play, and I think you actually have to go for the greedier play because you're behind on cards. I mean, your opponent does effectively have 5 cards in his hand right now, so you kind of need to build up a actual decent hand. Okay, so yeah, we are going to see the 1 damage Wrath. Now, the 3 damage one is better for your board position, but it's worse in terms of the mid game, and you really, really need the mid game at the moment. Now, what he's debating here is whether or not to go 2/3. I mean, either way, he gets blown out by swipe. So I would just run the 2/3 Harvest Golem into the 2/2, because he's getting blown out by swipe either way anyway. So if he doesn't have swipe, what does he get blown out by more? Probably losing his 2/1 Sumptuary Protector, because then he loses damage on the board to a hero power. So definitely would run the Harvest Golem into the other Harvest Golem and then hero power to kill it. Yeah, that's the correct play. Maybe Earthen Ring? What's he thinking here? Is he playing around Druid of the Claw? Interesting. Is that... Must be for Druid of the Claw. Because he can't kill the Druid of the Claw if there's one that just comes down without that. But with that he can hero power to kill it and run 2 minions into it. That's interesting. That's interesting. Less value on the Earthen Ring, but you're playing around the Druid of the Claw. I actually quite like that. But yeah, that was an interesting play. Not killing the 2/1 though, I'm not sure I agree with. I mean, what we're probably going to see here is swipe on the 3/3, run the 2/1 into the Harvest Golem, hero power the Harvest Golem, and then he has the 2/2 on the board. Yeah, that's probably what we're going to see here. That would make the most sense, at least, out of everything. Or it doesn't actually matter which combination he goes in, as long as he swipes either the 3/3 or... actually, no, it doesn't even matter which combination he goes in, period. Swipe, hero power, the token from the Harvest Golem. And random YouTube ad. Now... The video actually cuts off halfway through there, so I'm just going on to the next one. As usual, I'll put the 3 videos, since Fight Night does split them up into 3 to avoid spoilers effectively. I'll put the 3 videos in the description. Anyway, continuing. You could go Earthen Ring here. I think you do. You need the body on the board, and there's no point in healing yourself, so you just heal the 2/3. There's an Innervate for Admirable. Not amazing. Not amazing here. The problem with his hand at the moment is he doesn't really want to play anything. He doesn't have anything in his hand that he wants to play. At all, in fact. Yeah, the Big Game Hunter taunt. It's sketchy, but I think it's correct. Because you actually want to cycle the 1/1. Ancient of Lore, that's perfect. You just play the Ancient, draw cards. You could innervate the Cenarius. The problem is if you innervate the Cenarius, you essentially do the same thing. You have 5/5 that runs into a 1/1, and then you have like a 4/1 with taunt, so it's just awkward. So I would just play the Ancient Allure, kill the 4/2 with the 2/3, and then kill the 1/1 with the 3/3, and then that's actually a pretty good turn for you. You're really far ahead at that point. At least by the way I see it. But yeah, as usual, Dark, he loves thinking out all of his moves. He loves moving the mouse around, which makes listening to commentaries of him very funny. I keep freaking out at him moving the mouse. Because when he's thinking about a play, he does it with his mouse as well. So it's actually quite difficult to follow what his actual train of thought is. Whether he's giving something a lot of thought or just like a tiny skim thing. Here I would say that the fairly obvious play is Ancient Allure, although he is debating the innervate scenarios. Yeah, he's debating it. I think if I did go innervate scenarios, I'd probably go for the 2/2/2s instead of the buff. Yeah, he is. He's going for the 2/2/2s. Okay. I think the only reason to do it that way instead of the Ancient Allure is like basically you want to use your innervate. Innervate is more or less useless at this point of the game, so you really want to be using your innervates. I mean, here we're going to see innervate Druid of the Claw or Black Knight. He could get messed up by a Druid of the Claw later on in the game. That's risky. That's very risky. But anyway, by doing it that way, it means that you do have a better board position. It means you use your innervate as well. Now, for here, he could take out pretty much everything. Yeah, he can. Keeper of the Grove, targeting the 4/4, deal 2 damage. Hero Power, the 2/1, run the 3/3 into the 4/2, and then kill the Black Knight with Cenarius. And then you have a 5/4 and a 2/4 on the board. I mean, playing the Cenarius last turn actually paid off. Like, if he played the Ancient Allure, he'd be in a worse situation than he is now. So, in hindsight, it was the better play, although it was a bit of a toss-up. Although, you never know, he could have drawn Savage Roar. If he'd drawn Savage Roar, he would have had the innervate to kill Admirable this turn. Yeah, we're gonna see the Moonfire. Actually, yeah, it doesn't matter if you do it this way or the other way. It's the same play in the end. A 5/4 and a 2/4. Now, this is where not having the Druid of the Claw on the board is really hurting him. Because, like, he doesn't have the Black Knight now. He can go Druid of the Claw and kill the 5/4. He should be killing the 5/4. He's going for face. I don't understand that play. I don't get it. Oh, Ancient Allure. Give the 5/5 taunt. Debating the Force of Nature, but Force of Nature doesn't do much at this point. Ancient Allure, draw 2 cards, give the 5/5 taunt. He should put the Ancient Allure in the middle or not. I think you're protecting the 5/4, so put it next to the yeah, put it next to the 2/4. It doesn't actually matter where you put it because you're trying to protect both. Putting it next to the 5/4 lets you give more taunt targets if you really need it. But ultimately it doesn't matter. You don't put it in the middle because then you can't only give it taunt, which is what the aim of this is. So he's going to Sun Fury the 5/5. He's going to Sun Fury the 5/5, take his opponent down to 12. He's debating putting it next to the 2/4, although I think that would be a misplay personally. Yeah, Sun Fury the 5/5, attack for 2. Okay. Now, this particular turn, I do remember this from watching the thing live. Force of Nature Savage Roar comes down here because you have to. You don't really have a way of living otherwise, but he misplays the way he does it in a pretty drastic way. I mean, he's dead to Fawn Roar anyway, but it's still misplay. So, pause before he does anything. Now, what you could do here is run, like, you could innervate Hero Power and then run 2/4/4, 2 trees into the 5/5, one into the 5/4, run the Druid of the Claw into the 2/4, Hero Power, run it into the 2/3. Clear board, you now have a 4/2 on the board with charge. And you're at 11 life. No, what he actually does, that would be the correct way of doing this. What he actually does is he sacrifices his Druid of the Claw, he then innervate Hero Powers, takes damage, and does 1 extra damage to his opponent. He takes 2 damage to do 1 extra to his opponent. That was a huge, huge misplay. He should be at 13 life right now. Like, again, he's still dead to Fawn Roar, but now he's pretty much dead, period. Like, he should not have taken damage there. There was no point. He should be at 13 life, and he should have a 4/4 on the board. Now, this 4/4 would have stopped Darkwonyx from playing the Druid of the Claw here. So that misplay was actually fairly major, and it was all because he played too quickly. He was so focused on getting the play done that he played really quickly. If you saw, he actually went Druid of Claw, Force of Nature, and he did it within about 3 seconds. So that's really a lesson. Don't play that quickly. He's going to clear the board here. He should be clearing the board here. He's dead anyway, but at this point he's just making mistakes almost every single turn. So yeah, that's game over. But he doesn't show the Force of Nature, but he had lethal anyway. But he shouldn't have had lethal. He should have killed that 4/3, or just given it taunt. If he'd put up the taunt, he would have lived that turn. Like, if it was just Force of Nature, not if it was not with the silence. He wouldn't have lived that turn because of the top deck, but he would have lived against Force of Nature, and that was the mistake. So the next couple games that happened, skipping to the last one, we had a Hunter that got beaten by Warrior because it's a bad matchup, and it beat the Druid because it got a good starting hand. It was pretty... I almost did the Warrior game, but to be honest, it's a really one-sided matchup anyway, so it's not that interesting. And the one with the Hunter at first is literally a 5-minute game. It's a 5-minute game, it's a steamroll, it's Hunter draws well. Really not interesting. You can watch it if you like. I'll put the video link in the description, but it wasn't that interesting to actually watch. So anyway, we are going to go on to the last game of the series, which was Warlock Aggro, or Zoo, against Warrior Control. Now, looking at opening hands here, I'd say that ThatsAmirable should send back the whole hand. None of this is really useful. You want Flame Imps against and Voidwalkers against Warrior Control. And for Darkwonyx, just send back the Execute. But yeah, if you're running as many 1-drops as ThatsAmirable is, you can actually afford to mulligan like that. So we actually have a decent hand for him now. Now the play here He plays rather quickly, so I'm just going to pause. I would actually put down the Voidwalker and then coin the Harvest Golem on turn 2 against Warrior, because you don't want to put Voidwalker Young Priestess because you get blown out by Cruel Taskmaster, and you don't want to play Knife Juggler because Fiery War Axe and Slam kill it. So Voidwalker and then turn 3 Harvest Golem is what I'd go for here. But no, he does in fact go for the Knife Juggler, and this is going to be a completely useless Knife Juggler. Doesn't even do 3 damage. Gets killed by the slam. Now, for this turn, we're just going to see Voidwalker, Young Priestess. As far as Darkwonyx is concerned here, I think you actually go for the Frothing Berserker. It might get Soulfired, but then you bait out a Soulfire, and also, if he doesn't Soulfire it, then you pretty much win the game. So he's going to go for that instead of the value Cruel Taskmaster, because next turn you can go to Cruel Taskmaster and armor up. This turn, what we should see is Harvest Golem Soulfire. He's going to discard the other Soulfire. That's pretty brutal. Discarding the dog would have been okay there, but that Frothing Berserker got rid of both Soulfires, which is a very big deal. Okay, the Yeti just comes down here. I would say that Darkwonyx is behind right now. I think you just go double dog. Double dog works. He should just go double dog and attack. So Darkwonyx is quite far behind right now. Admirable has got a fairly fast start, although he doesn't have Soulfires, so he's out of reach. That is something to note. He only has Doom Guards. And that's an amazing top deck. What we could see here is Whirlwind and Cruel Task the dog next to one of the dogs next to the Harvest Golem, and then attack the 2/4 with the Chillwind Yeti. And then the board is more or less evened up. Then we have a 3/3 Harvest Golem. No, 3/2. 3/2 Harvest Golem and a 2/2. So the board has pretty much evened up. Not quite, because Harvest Golem is a beast, but yeah. Alright, so we've got Flame Imp, Voidwalker, and Flame Imp. That'll do. Now, what we should see here, is that a 3/3 or a 3/2? It's kind of difficult to see. It's a 3/3, isn't it? Yeah, I got hit by Young Priestess trigger. It's a 3/3. It's a little hard to see on the video because it doesn't go fully up to 1080p, so it's only at 720, so it's a little hard to see zoomed out with the red on red. But yeah, that play makes sense because the Voidwalker is actually going to die. Now, the Flame Imp, I think the Flame Imp should have been on the other side of the Voidwalker, so that the Voidwalker is going to die anyway, so it means you get a Harvest Golem with the buff, so I think that was a misplay. He's going to take out the Voidwalker, and now he's going to miss a damage. He doesn't have the extra damage on his Harvest Golem. I would say you have to ignore the Karen here. Yep. Play 2 1-drops, ignore the Karen. You can't go for Karen at this point. But yeah, he's going to miss a damage here. Let's see if that actually matters. Okay, this turn we're just gonna see Barongeddon come down. He's probably gonna kill the Harvest Golem with the Karen and then Barongeddon, and he only has a 1/1 on the board. So he'd be on 7, 5, and then yeah, 1 more damage is what we're looking at. Okay, so Barongeddon's going to come down here, leave him with a 1/1 because the Argent Squire is going to lose the buff. There's the Mortal Coil. You Mortal Coil the 4/1 first to draw. Doomguard. One late. And we have an Armor Smith in the hand now, so this is going to be brutal. I would say you go Armor Smith. Let's see, how much mana have you got? Armor Smith, Acolyte of Pain maybe? Yeah, you want to be drawing cards at this stage of the game. Acolyte of Pain and Armor Up. And then take out the 2-2 and the 2-3 with the Baron Geddon, which is really awkward, but yeah, you want to keep your life as high as is humanly possible. So now he's going to go up to, what, 10? Yeah, 10. 10 life, and draw a card. Now he's got the Alexstrasza next turn. There's the Leroy, 1 mana short. 9 life, he would have been on 8. I don't think it would have mattered. Although it does mean he can get an Abusive Sergeant, which he can't now. So that's an extra out. Now what we should see here is the life tap first. Life tap first and then probably Leroy. Although if you Leroy, you give him 2 extra 1/1, so it wouldn't work. Are you dead on board? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You're not dead on board, but it's pretty close. And he's gaining 4 life a turn from that Armor Smith. Probably 5, so it's better just to take it out. I'd say you play Doomguard, life tap, hope it's a power overwhelming. He played Soulfire, he discarded his Soulfire earlier, that's gonna come back to bite him, although he wouldn't have got him this low otherwise. So yeah, I would say Doomguard life tap is the only play. Leroy would not work, because you give whelps and whelps. 1, put him into lethal on board, and 2, they give him 2 extra armor. So Leroy's a no-go. Even a golden Leroy is a no-go. It's gonna have to be Doomguard life tap. Now, what can he top deck? He could have top decked Abusive Sergeant. If he'd actually 9, 10. He's not going to win normally. If he hadn't have missed that 1 damage earlier, I would life tap first to see if you get Abusive Sergeant. In fact, yeah, life tap first. There's no point in not life tapping first, because if he'd played it correctly, then he should have life tapped first there to try and find an Abusive Sergeant, and he would have been able to kill him. But anyway, the game's over. Concedes. The sweeper from Darkwonyx. But yeah, there was a couple of misplays. In the last game it was a small one, it was a positioning thing, which it didn't cost him the game. Although it did lower the amount of cards he could have drawn to win the game. So different kind of thing. But the Druid Mirror was very riddled with misplays from ThatsAmirable. I think overall, at Fight Night, at least he played at a much lower standard than what I'm used to seeing him play at least. It could be pressure. He did say that he performs better under pressure, but I don't think that's actually the case. I think that he performed quite badly at Fight Night compared to online events, because he's a very good player. I've seen him actually play. I've done weeklies on him before. He's a very, very good player. And he just didn't seem to be able to play at the level he should have been able to. There was a couple of players that did this. Chaki made a couple of mistakes here and there. We had Duckwing Face, ThatsAmirable. Just a couple of players cracking under pressure to some extent. Although Chaki didn't really. He made a couple of misplays, but he seems to be back up to the level he should be in the second half at least. He's much more confident. But yeah, especially Duckwing Face and ThatsAmirable were really affected by the whole live pressure thing. Whereas some of the people like Darkwonyx and Forsen really weren't. I mean, Forsen, he's been to these events before, so it doesn't really affect him, and Darkwonyx is Swedish. Swedish people in general don't seem to get sort of intimidated by this stuff. But anyway, as for now, this has been Jotto. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, just want to talk, put it in the comment section below. I'll put the 3 parts to this video in the description as usual. But as for now, this has been Jotto, signing off.